We present you incredible homes week after week, and there are 5 that really stood out. Welcome to the Top 5 Interior Insights series, where we present you the top 5 homes you love the most. Today's pick, an industrial loft full of plants, art, and warmth. I love how it proves that industrial design doesn't need to feel cold. Each episode reveals why design speaks to so many of you. Also, go and subscribe right now so you make sure to not miss any of your most loved episodes.
Hi guys, welcome to Interior Insights. I'm Jane and we are standing in Hamburg in front of an absolutely incredible 300 square meter loft. If you love eclectic and industrial design that is paired with a lot of vintage details, this video is for you. If you like the video, make sure to subscribe. Come in. So, this building was built in the beginning of the 20th century, and formerly this was actually a woodworking studio. The photographer rented this loft and turned it into an absolutely unique and incredible studio. So this is the ground floor, and you can see that as you come in we have a very spacious layout. Because this is a loft, there is literally just one room per floor. The loft entails as much space as you need to just let your creativity run free. The intent of the renovation wasn't to cover it up and turn it into a glamorous space.
Also, make sure to follow us on Instagram, where we post a lot of behind-the-scenes content and more interior design stories you won't find anywhere else.
To really stay true to the authentic history of the loft. So we can see this in all of the materials that have been chosen and all of the old historic details that have been kept. For example, the floor is still original and you can see all of the beautiful marks on the floor that have been stayed here. This place is so unique because you just have an array of windows on both sides. And the windows are also still original from the 20th century, so they let a lot of cold in. You have these beautiful original steel frames that divide the window and add a lot of structure and repetition. And when we look outside, you actually have a river. This space is connected to one of the many canals that Hamburg has to offer. This place just has a lot of touch points that really remind me of New York and of all of the industrial lofts that we can find there. Over here we have a little seating area, and you can see that everything is held in very warm colors to really feel inviting. The space itself is zoned by multiple carpets that are draped on top of each other, and they create this lush ambience that only happens when you layer texture upon texture. And I just love all of these really cool prints. 2 deeply orange colored sofa chairs were placed next to each other, and they just create this very vintage 70s atmosphere.
Stop wasting hours trying to figure out what makes a room designed. I've done the work for you. My free guide has 5 proven design tips that always work and that you won't find anywhere else. So go get it now. The link's in the description, or you can just scan the QR code.
And you can see that you just have these really old materials, such as this cord fabric or the stylish acrylic backdrop, as well as this white acrylic table. And you can see that this design and this composition really lives from all the different shapes that are collected here. So here we have 2 circular chairs that again bring a new dynamic to the space. Behind me we have the only wall that has not been covered up by new plaster or paint, and you can just see its history. And like I already said before, formerly this place used to be a woodworking studio where just a bunch of people lived and worked and created things from wood. And when the photographer rented this loft, all of the walls still had a lot of old pin-up girls on top of them. He decided to keep one of them just to keep the history alive. And this is also the only wall in the entire apartment that is still original and that still has and entails all of the historic details. Also, the photographer has a big love for mirrors. More on that later. Over here we have a simple kitchen that consists just of an L shape, and there's a bigger kitchen upstairs. But yes, whenever there's photo shoots here, you have a space to make some drinks or to prepare some food. Now, let's go upstairs. Oh, but before we go upstairs, this woodworking bench also is original and is one of the benches that used to belong to the former woodworking studio. So, this pair of stairs was also built by the architect himself. Before he built these stairs, you actually had to go outside and go up different stairs. So this narrow space of stairs really just connected the top and the bottom floor and turned it into an open space apartment. So this is the upper floor, and this space consists of one 160 square meter gigantic room. But before I show that to you, this is the mirror cabinet that I've been talking about. So the photographer has a great passion for collecting a bunch of different things, and he started collecting these antique mirrors that have a curve in them. And he turned this place into just a majestic, beautiful cabinet, and we can see that the walls are painted indigo blue, and you just have all of these gold circular shapes on top of them, and it's just an absolutely fabulous moment. Now let's go into the big room. The absolute magic of this loft is the fact that we have one gigantic room that is framed from both sides completely with windows. So we just have this beautiful lighting from both sides, and the space really is beautifully structured while allowing a lot of flexibility and allowing your creative spirit to roam free. To my right, we have a kitchen, and the kitchen itself underlines just the amount of space that we have here, because we have two freestanding kitchen islands. One that is very high, and that can be transformed into a bar where you can gather with your friends and entertain, and another one that is a bit lower that encompasses everything that a kitchen needs to have. Everything that you can find in this loft has some sort of history and has been custom created. For example, the countertops of the kitchen are old pieces of flooring that have been glued together and turned into something unique. And you can just see, again, the attention to detail and just the creative approach with which this loft has been designed. While all of the historic details have been kept original, you can hear the creaking floor, and you can see, again, the structure that is holding up this building with all of the columns that really frame this big, spacious room. We even still have some historic details from the old woodworking studio. For example, this metal beam on top here works kind of like an excavator, and it's just perfect whenever the photographer has a photo shoot here, because the metal beam goes all the way to the outside, and you can just like leverage sofas up here and just create all kinds of crazy things. And this is just something that you wouldn't find in a normal space like this. Over here is kind of a lawyer's area. You have a very big table that is framed by 4 black Eames chairs, and we actually have a bunch of different Eames chairs here, and it's just really cool. For example, over here we have the lobby Eames chair, and you just have this very lush and comfortable atmosphere whenever you're working. And another thing that I actually didn't know is that formerly these big trésors always had 2 keys, so that both owners or 2 people were always needed to open it, so that not one person could just rob the other person. And this is why here we have 2 historic keys. And I think that that is really cool. Another thing that I really love is the fact that on this side of the loft we just have one gigantic cabinet that again mimics these vintage cabinets, or it kind of reminds me also of a lawyer's office. And you just have these very industrial shelves. And my favorite thing about this loft is the way that lighting has been used to create accents. Because we have such a big space, we have literally 10 or 20 different sources of light that stand here and that illuminate the space and that just create this absolutely unique ambience and vibrance. Just on this side of the wall, we have 3 different or even 4 different lights that illuminate the wall. And whenever you're creating a space, it's really all about lighting and using different sources of lighting to create an atmosphere of play and fun. Even though the space is an open plan living concept, you still have a very classical layout that orients itself on the axis in the center of the room. Over here we have the living room area that is marked by 2 sofas that are facing each other. And to take the seriousness out of the design, we have a bunch of vintage pillows that are knitted and that just have a lot of very colorful colors and bring a lot of fun into the design. On top of the marble designer table, we have a candle holder from Stoffnagel, which is a very classic and iconic design piece because it allows you to create your own design. Both sofas have sofa tables that are very rustical and industrial, paired by 2 lampshades. You know you're in the space of a very creative person when you see the amount of books that are just being kept here. In whatever direction you look, there are just books out on top of books. A difficulty when designing this loft was that because we have so many windows, we actually don't have that many empty walls to put shelves and to store things. And this is why the photographer had to come up with a creative solution. And so he turned one entire wall of the loft into a gigantic library to store all of his photographs and also his entire book collection. And later, on the opposite side of the loft, I will show you even more creative storage solutions. So yes, you can see that behind me we just have an array of books, and it can quickly be overwhelming to sort your books because they come in all different shapes, sizes and color. So it's sometimes a little bit difficult to create a coherent design. But whenever you have a shelf that provides a thorough structure, such as these perfect 40 by 40 grids, this really creates the base of your design to let your creativity run loose. Like I already said, over here is the book collection, and over here we actually have an old artwork of the photographer. He had a series where he stacked a bunch of different objects on top of each other, and here we have a few different chairs put on top of each other, and I will blend in the photo. And you can just see that it's not about being perfect, but it's really just about collecting and staying true to who you are and your interests. For example, here we have a lot of different globes that are just being collected. And I would have never thought that a bunch of globes next to each other paired up would be something interesting or something that makes a space look amazing. But it did. So always stay true to your interests. So this is just a single reminder that whenever you're collecting something, it's always good to pair the things and to create a certain little moment or a certain composition throughout your design. Like in the rest of the loft, functionality was really paired with fun to create a unique design, and the same goes for this table. This table consists of an old ping pong table that was found upon moving into this apartment, and it was kept a ping pong table. At the same time, it's a big, generous table to gather with your friends, and we have a lot of different vintage school chairs that are surrounding it, and you just again have this beautiful throwback to your school times. And the same goes for all of these artworks. And you can see that the space holds his own personal artistic development. You can just see all of these architectural photographs. Like I already told you, the lack of storage solutions was a big problem in this loft. And so the photographer decided to create his own cabinet, and he actually designed his own shelving system that encompasses 2 different rooms where you can store all of your things. So this is the shelf that I'm talking about, and you can see that it is kept in this beautiful rusty red color. He designed the shelf himself, and it was custom built after his dimensions. And you can see that this is just an answer to a complex problem that this loft had. Again, there's a lot of space to keep all of your books and to showcase your personality and to just store random objects. Or on this side, we have a little vase collection. And the secret that I've been telling you about is the fact that actually this closet holds 2 different rooms. So over here, we actually have a bathroom, a toilet that has been hidden. You can see that the inside of the powder room is kept in the same turquoise green as the kitchen, and you have all of these little Danish details, and at the same time you still have this rustical design and an industrial loft, and it just stays true to the design story. And here we have a full functioning music setup with 2 boxes from Grundig and just boxes that surround the entire loft and that just create an absolute unique design. So thank you very much for watching the video. Definitely head to this link in the description and check out the photographer and his artworks, as well as this amazing loft. If you haven't subscribed yet, go and subscribe right now, and I hope to see you next week.